Refin Review.
Welcome back to Refin It Up, the Refin Review, as we do every week. But this week, a very special Refin Review because we have a special reviewer joining us for the rest of this episode. He is the man when it comes to wearing striped shirts. Nobody does it better than this guy right here. He's my man. He used to sit in the back seat blowing smoke into the back of my head. Mike Chioda. Mikey, what's up, bro?
Man, what's happening, Jim? You got that right. All this, oh man, you were the DJ and the driver, bro.
Yeah,
and the Pepsi. And
yeah,
drink
that's where the
Pepsi.
karaoke came from, right?
That's it. That's
car.
exactly it, brother.
Yeah.
Had a
All
hell
I
of a
got-
run.
all I
the
got to
80s
say
and
is-
90s, loved it.
All I got to say is, Mike Chioda.
So what's happening, guys? How you doing? How you doing, Brian? What's happening?
Hey, not a lot, man.
Okay.
I'm so glad to have you on, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
We figured what better way than bring you in and Refin Review and not wait till later in the show. So,
Yeah, I love it, man. You guys are getting big here, man. I love it. Thanks for having me, man.
well, just don't bury anybody, okay?
Oh, no, you can bury
I'm not
anybody you
drinking
want,
right
just
now,
not
so-
us.
Yeah, you're right.
Huh.
Yeah, just not us.
Yeah, just not us. That'll kill my downside.
Hey, then we'll have to
Company
take
killed
back
my
that blue
downside
check.
5 years ago, 4 years ago.
Well, RJ,
Uh,
kick this thing off.
So, guys, on SmackDown, we had, I believe, Daphne. They kind of did the whole swap between SmackDown and Raw. Daphne is now on SmackDown. Jessica is now on Raw. But Jimmy, Daphne had what we call the falsies, the kind of the counts, the near falls. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
I'll send this one up to Brian. I'll tee this one up for Brian.
Okay, well, it was something that I noticed ginormously through the entire match. I don't remember the match, and that's my fault. I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. But she does fine work. The cues are a little bit noticeable than what they should be, but I can live with that. But when you're doing false finishes and you're telling me that it's not the finish, and I know that, they're not good false finishes.
That's correct.
So something that she's doing that's got to be corrected by someone up there. And there are people that can fix it up there. If not, we have a few people in this panel that can surely help. But I call them the ice cream scoops. It's when she goes to swipe on the third count, which would be the false finish portion of this. She takes her hand and turns it completely in like a crane and scoops like she's scooping ice cream or gold in the earth. And it just gives it away. She's got to flatten that out, figure out a way for her hand and body adjustments to not be different than her first and second count, because I know when the finish is coming because she lays flat and never moves it for the 1, 2, 3. That's got to be adjusted because it was the entire match. And this was a pretty long match for a TV match. It was like between 8 and 10 minutes with a break. So I'm not knocking her as a person or her other abilities that she does in the ring, but the false finishes have got to be fixed with her.
I don't disagree with that. The thing is, sometimes for us, because being who we are and being what we did, we were always cognizant of that. We always did our best to keep our cadence and our counts consistent and tried not to give anything away. And I think it's more noticeable to us more than the average fan, but at the same time, which is one of the reasons why there are certain tells out there from certain officials that I will not disclose here because, like I've said before, once you tell somebody what it is, they can't unsee it. But if you're making it a little too obvious, it is something that needs to be worked on. Like you said, Daphne does great work. You know, it's just this one little thing, this one little area she needs to work on, and that's it. And after that, I think she'll be absolutely like, don't worry about a thing.
Yeah. Good. Man.
So case in point, she did the Piper Niven and Tiffany match.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And that was a good match. I mean, what I'm saying is, Jimmy, you said real quick that the average people can't see it. I can tell you, brother, I overlook all the bad false finishes in the business today, and this was just horrid. I mean, it was bad. I couldn't stop looking. I was like, who is buying this? And she got no reaction other than people really into it. because they were picking up on it too. I felt maybe not, but it's just over the top noticeable to me.
I mean, I definitely agree with you guys totally. And false finishes are so important. Like my main thing when I was always counting, I would talk to the talent as I'm counting, especially talent that I didn't work with for a long time, or like he just came in from NXT. And I mean, as I'm going down, and like you get to those, what 3 or 4, maybe 5 false finishes that are going to be really close false finishes, and you tell the talent, hey, look, these counts. Make sure you watch me, kind of like listen, watch, and then I'll talk to you. Here we go. 1, 2, kick, and like as you're up here and you're saying kick, you're hopefully they're kicking out, and your swipe has got to be great. You can't twist your body like a fish. You take too much away from the false finish when you're twisting around like a fish and or you're rolling around. I've seen so important the false finishes. Jimmy, it was funny because I just did this 3 count, these questions, right? And you had done them before. And the guy asked me to do them, and I'm like, shit, Jimmy Corderas answered every question just the way I would answer it. But these guys kept coming back to me, Jared, like they wanted me to do it. I'm like, well, I'm going to have to revamp it a little bit in the different terms,
Right.
But some were still the same because you were so right. Less is more and being seen in a match, right? The cadence of the counts is very important. And I had added to that the cadence as well, is that your false finish counts are just as important going into the home stretch, basically. And they're so important on the ref. When you used to see that crowd in the first level and everywhere getting up off their seat after a false finish, you did your job as a referee.
Absolutely.
Right. And the talent kicking. When you're working with a Shawn Michaels and Undertaker and all these guys and old school Rock and all these back in the day, they were great talent that we grew up with, right? And I mean, it was just, we learned a lot. It was just experience, and you can trust those guys because you worked with them every night, single night on live events and all that. So, but I'll tell you one thing, I heard they have this late schedule now where it's like, I know some of the refs, they like, oh yeah, I'm working one weekend or 2 weekends. Oh, what about live events? Oh, there are no live events for me this month. I'm like, what?
Yep. Chioda, we won't get in that. That's another can of worms.
Yeah.
They couldn't handle what we did.
Oh my God. I'm like, where was that schedule back in the day?
As
what do
we
you
say
talk,
that,
Brian?
as we-
Brian,
as- yeah,
Brian, are you talking about they couldn't handle the grind, bruv?
yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, I just clear.
Well, there's one, bro.
One thing is not couldn't handle the grind, but they would get definitely reps in matches.
No doubt.
Every single night, these live events, and it would help them for TV.
And
Yeah,
feedback.
well-
And feedback.
See,
And
because
feedback, right.
no, but like you said, Mikey, getting reps in, as much as it is important for the guys, getting the reps in matches when they're, putting their matches together, they get to work on them at the house shows and piece things together, see what works, see what doesn't. It's the same thing for the referees.
Right.
Those reps help.
They do.
Absolutely.
Daniel, you want to touch on this?
No, I mean, one of the things I'll just elaborate on you guys. My favorite, I mean, just in general, when I can do a falsie and I got the fans going, that was 3, or
Right.
either they're kind of, it's like, I got you guys, like
They're off their
that's
feet.
that's my, basically that's how I get my shit in,
Right.
so to speak, right? When I do that. And that's the way they do it. And when I do that, your falsie was great. So, and I don't even have to go back and watch it. I know it just by the crowd reaction. How the way they popped or didn't pop on that. So, right there, you should know when they don't do that and they should have done it. You're going, okay, I may have messed something up. That's when you need to go back and watch and figure out what you did wrong to make it better. At least that's what I did personally. And
Right.
obviously Brian helped me with that years ago. But yeah.
You mean Earl? Go ahead, RJ.
Oh,
yeah.
come
Oh,
on.
wow.
Are you kidding me?
Threw it out there, man, already.
Hey, I always thought it was important.
So just to
count
put
hard.
just to put a lid on this, Brian, what you're saying is the swipe that she does is too high, as opposed to being close to the canvas. If it was closer to the canvas, yeah.
Yes.
No,
I don't
that's
mind if
okay.
a little swipe. I get the swipe. Okay. I get it.
Mhm.
Some referees are good enough that they don't have to swipe. Okay. I had a slight swipe, but it was down at the bottom.
Bottom,
And
right.
Where Chioda would say kick.
I would touch the mat. I would actually literally
too.
touch the mat.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
Scrape
same
it.
here.
Scrape
you
it.
would count so
That
hard
part.
on the 1st 1 and
Mhm.
2 count. When you came and even touched them, you swiped the mat, didn't make the sound. You know,
Uh-huh.
I mean, if they showed it in slow motion, there'd be like, a ton of like,
He hit it.
yeah, you hit the mat, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
Daniel, so I wanted to get your thoughts on this because you brought this up to us privately or next here with Rick Knox and allegedly an illegal tag.
Yeah, so basically in the 0 hour match, Rick Knox called a tag. Just kind of let you know what happened. It was Blake Christian, and I don't even know who his partner was, but the guy was underneath within the ring on the like laying down flat. His feet were underneath the ropes on the apron side, and Blake Christian went to tag and tagged on the apron side, not over the rope, tagged his foot on that side, and Rick Knox called it as the illegal tag or the legal tag, sorry. And even commentary was like, I think Blake Christian's now a legal person according to Rick Knox or whatever. So, just I'm sure it was one of those moments where he wasn't supposed to do that, tag that way or whatever. Or who knows? It may even went over it. I don't know, but those are the moments where I know I've had conversations with talent where they'll want to do something crazy with their feet or something wild. I'm like, no, you can't do that. That's not an actual legal tag. So just kind of, it's one of those things you don't put yourself in those kind of spots because basically, I mean, you're buried right there. It's not illegal. No matter what, I don't know what company would count that legal. So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
we went over that. We went over that for years. Years
Mhm.
ago, we went over that.
Yeah.
I went over it with Arn Anderson, who's in tag matches all his life, pretty much. Dean Malenko, Mike Rotundo, IRS. And we discussed it, and I always said, and they said, "What do you think, Kyoto?" I said, I think it should be above the waist, over the rope, above the waist, on the back, anywhere, but not on the ass, not on the leg, not on the foot. Where the guy could stick his leg out back, to his foot and tag the foot. It's got to be a waist and above. That's what we came up, and that's what was always taught too for years.
I agree. Here's another thing too that's lost, and Chioda and Jimmy for sure. Not trying to exclude you, Daniel, but it was big time when we were doing it. When we throw out the Guerreros per se, right? How many times were we told if you don't see the tag, there's nothing wrong with grabbing the guy and putting him back out and say, "I didn't see the tag. Get the hell
Right.
out!"
Mhm.
Right? Right? It makes it
Yeah.
more believable. It makes it more real. It's okay. We can't see everything, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
And
to
yeah.
touch a leg that's laying down underneath the rope, it's just you said it, Daniel. I don't know what company calls that legal, but you just named it. That'd be AEW. Okay.
Right.
That
Well,
would
so
not
much
fly.
so much for the positive this week. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
That's not a positive.
But
That's a
here's,
negative.
here's
definitely.
the simple
That's the
thing.
joke.
You
Got to be
talked
on a
about
map, right?
you
Both
talked
feet.
about an illegal tag happening and you getting the referee getting the guy coming in who is coming in
Mhm.
illegally and for chasing him out. There's an opportunity because
Yes.
if he's a heel, then the guy, his opponent that tried to tag out can do something heelish to get the advantage again. If it's a
Right.
baby face and you don't allow the tag, you can cut him off and that way the heels can double team behind your back.
Right.
Right.
And there's a reason why
Yeah.
you're distracted as opposed to just, hey, go stand over there and look the other way. It makes sense. It
Extra
helps.
heat, and then they clap right behind your head as they
Hmm.
make the
Right.
tag,
Yeah.
and then they get like, and the referee turns around and said, "I heard it. I heard
Yeah.
the tag."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like you're outsmarting the ref and stuff. I mean, that's old school stuff we used to do,
Yeah.
right, Jimmy?
But old school is
Worked.
still,
Still works once in a
yeah,
while, right?
I know.
Yep.
Well,
What's
they did
better?
that. They did that at the we talked about it I think it was a few weeks ago, guys. We talked about at WWE during the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY. They did that.
Yes.
I didn't see it. You get out.
Yeah.
No, well, he didn't
No, so
tag. He
he didn't
intentionally
tag.
didn't tag.
Oh, he
They
didn't
Yeah.
intentionally.
tag.
He
Yeah.
So,
didn't tag.
so
Yeah.
it was a ruse on the Motor City Machine Guns. They thought the tag had happened, and
Mhm.
that was their way of getting into the finish and going over on them. Anyways, it was
Yeah.
done very
So,
well. Let's put it that way.
right.
Good, good.
Then Aiden, I forget his referee name now, his gimmick name in NXT. But Hornet basically did caught the guy, put him back in the corner, I didn't tag, and you're thinking of that spot that happened about 2 months ago. RJ
Mhm.
is what we talked about it on the show.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay,
Um,
that's what it was. I knew
yeah.
they all blend together sometimes.
Hmm.
Uh, But
It's Adrian something. What is his name? He goes by now, Jimmy.
Butler,
Adrian Butler.
Adrian Butler. Yeah, that's it. That's
Yes,
the name he goes by. Yeah.
Cool,
he's
cool.
that's
still a
always going to be
Hornet to me.
Hornet. He's always
Yeah.
going to be Hornet.
Mhm.
Before we move to the next thing, which is our positives, which I don't like to get to, but anyway, uh,
You're such a heel.
I mean, I'm just saying, but the days, Kyoto, I want you to chime in on this real quick because you're a special guest here. I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Feel free to chime in off of him, guys. The days of ad-libbing. So, in other words, let's just say Bryce knew that tag had to be made, but it wasn't made
Right.
properly. He can't ad-lib. He's not going to say and go do what we just like. No, guys, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. I mean, how many times did you work a match with Eddie Guerrero and he does this crazy stuff and you're just like, okay, I got to figure out how to get out of this.
Yeah, you bitch at Eddie for 5-10 minutes about the tag rope. Hold on to the tag rope. Hold
Yeah.
on to it, and then he takes it and he undoes it, unties it, and he puts it on the rope and he brings it all the way halfway down the ring.
Yes.
And you turn back around because he's jumping he's jumping and screaming, but he's got
I have the
tag
rope. I have the fucking
You
rope.
turn around,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
pop.
Yeah.
You got to stop, and make that like little
Right.
like what the fuck. It was, it popped me so much. It's like the chair shots he used to do. Hit the ref and they throw the chair to somebody else.
Right. That
So
was
good.
that was the hard part with Eddie because all that
You never
stuff was so
knew.
funny. No, but
was.
you're trying to keep a straight face
Right.
Oh yes.
and play
Right.
along,
Yeah.
but you want to bust out laughing because Eddie was so, he'd make those faces,
I know, man.
and
It
I'd
was
like,
funny.
oh, stop, please, I can't hold this in.
He popped me too. But I think it's important. Like, so one of the students, right, Ref Julie here in Tampa, she attends my classes, and at Storytellers, and she's really and it's so good because I have about 4 or 5 female students, and I've never worked with female students this much, or in my career because we didn't have too many female before I left, maybe one, and Jessica Carr, and so I was trying to tell them you got to get respect. And besides the payday, what these kids get paid, it's unbelievable what they get paid. Unbelievable. It just kills me. It does, man. $50, $40. They drive hours. They work 5, 6 matches, 4 or 5 matches, and and they get. I think they get abused on the pay on the indies big time. So, and it's sad. I'm trying to hopefully change that, in a roundabout way. But then I lay down the rules and regulations that they got to apply, and that's where they'll get respect. If they just think they're going to get run over, and go over it with the talent before the match. You know the match. You go over it once or twice or 3 times with them. So she calls me up. She texts me. She said, Mike, you're never going to believe this. Blah, blah, the title match here or somewhere. And she goes, they didn't tell me he didn't tell me he was going to give him the nut shot. It was a title match. And she rang the fucking bell on the
Good.
title match. 5 minutes, right? I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, hell yeah. Good for you. I said, did you get heat though? She was like, not at all. Actually, everybody was like, you studied. And she asked the guy, like, why didn't you, she asked the talent, why didn't you tell me? He was like, you know what? I just did it on the fly. And I didn't really look to do it behind your back. So he goes, it's not your fault. It's my fault. So she actually got applauded, and
Nice.
she got a little bonus. She got $100, for the night for doing 6, 7
Wow.
matches or whatever.
Great.
Yeah, it was cool. So I mean, she was so proud, implying the the rules and the regulations, and she didn't get heat. She didn't get heat.
I know who you're talking about. She came out to TNA and did some extra work. I booked her for extra work.
Okay, yeah,
I think
really
I think
nice.
back in Tampa or something like that.
Yes,
Yeah,
in
she's
Tampa. I seen
yep,
her there.
yep,
I seen her
yep,
there
yep.
too as well. Yes, sir. That's right.
All right, RJ, let's get to the positive.
Yep.
Well, I'm going right to you, Brian, because you are the personification of positivity. And
Oh,
yes, those are big words, and I put them together. Don't plan on it happening again. But the MJF match and Hangman Page match from this past weekend at AEW Revolution saw a scary point of the match, Brian. As all 4 of you guys, I just say, have been involved in some sort of a move that's gone bad, we'll say. What did you take out of this unfortunate move? And props to Bryce as well.
So actually, I'm going to send this to you, Daniel, right?
yeah, I'll take it. Kudos to Bryce. I mean, hey, I'm blank for a second, but Hangman hit MJ with the what was it? The
Angel Wings.
Angel Wings, yeah.
Hmm.
And then immediately I kind of landed kind of wonky. MJF kind of almost like it landed on his head. And Bryce went right in and checked immediately on MJF to make sure he was okay. And then when you could tell he's in a position where he wouldn't let Hangman do anything else until he knew he was good to go. And then he backed up and allowed the rest of the spot to happen. Um, so kudos. That's what you're supposed to do. That's our job, to make sure that everyone's okay. And thank goodness he was. And I feel like if it wasn't, then Bryce would have done the right thing and stopped or pushed Hangman back because he was just in the right position. So kudos to him for that. And I also want to throw out another kudos since we're talking about the same show. Her birthday was Sunday too, so kudos to Aubrey Edwards. She had great falsies in that Mercedes Monet match. She did a really good job in those two, and I just want to give her a shout out because we don't do that very much either. So kudos to her on that too as well.
Cool. Happy belated birthday, Aubrey. That's nice.
Hmm.
Cool. Sweet.
Happy belated birthday. And so I just want to say this thing too. I just want to say, Bryce, I know you're listening and you always think I hate you and don't say anything good about you. And you have me blocked on Twitter, which I don't give two shits about. Um, but I do want to say that you did do a nice job with this. And I will put you over when you do good. But so it's not always negative about you, sir, our favorite referee. Um, just wanted you to know, but you did do a good job on the pay per view. I did think you did a really nice work with the MJF thing because it was a nasty freaking bump. I saw him bump his head really good, graze the canvas, and as soon as he flipped over, you could see the strawberry on
Hmm.
his head.
Yep.
So marvelous job, buddy. Marvelous job. I know you don't think I like you, but I do.
Yep. Oh, I agree. I agree. He did what needed to be done in that situation, and that's one of the deals, then part of the job. It's part of the job requirement. You think something goes awry, you go and check and make sure everything is okay. And I know a lot of the times the guys will be their own worst enemy and say, "No, I'm good to go. I'm good to go," even though it may be skeptical. You just make sure. You just
Yep.
make sure, and then that way, if there is an issue, you call Doc Sampson in, or whoever's ringside doctor, and check him out. And if he's really really good to go, you know the signs, you know how to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Look in the eyes, squeeze the fingers, all that sort of stuff. There's ways. Talk to them, and if they're not communicating back properly, you know the
Yep.
signs. And he did a good job at that. And yeah, you gave props to Aubrey as well. I just wish, and I hate to put a slight negative spin on this. I just wish you would do that
Don't do
on.
it, Jimmy. Don't. No,
Oh,
no,
I'm going to
nothing
do it.
negative. Nothing negative.
It's not negative. It's just I want her to do the same thing all the time on false
Consistently.
finishes.
Consistently.
I mean, she on TV, it's not the same, and I see a difference in the way she counts her false finishes on pay-per-views, where the atmosphere is amped up. She seems more excited and more into it. Where on TV, it's more of a okay. I don't want to say going through the motions, but there's not as much. Your anticipation, your excitement level builds like the match builds as the
Hmm.
match gets starts building to the crescendo, so does your energy level with counting the false finishes. I'm not saying you count faster or slower or anything like that. The cadence stays the same, but there's a different intensity in the way you count, if that makes any kind of sense.
It does.
So I I'd like to see that on TV every week as well.
Last thing before we get out of this and focus on our guest, Mike Chioda, I do want to give my props to Paul Turner, who typically does good work, but he had a very, very solid night at Revolution. Thought he did an excellent job.
Hmm.
Too.
So I
Yes.
want to put props out there when I can and when I kind of feel it in my soul, which is not often. But Paul, great job, buddy. And yeah, so I think it's time to get into my Mike Chioda.
Yeah, let me add some of that. From what you
Dun,
guys
dun,
said
dun.
on that with Bryce and everything, and with how Daniel explained it. That seems like Bryce did his job. So I
He
mean,
did.
and there's been a few mishaps in the last couple of years with the refs and the talent and stuff like that. The Mox match and all that stuff. God bless, he's all right. I mean, so you got to take that serious nowadays, and we took that serious for years. Like the chair shots and all that serious shots. Oh man, your bell got rung, but
Right.
years past we started taking concussion protocols real serious, and they got Doc Sampson over there. So I mean, and they got a good medical field. So they seem like they probably got it together, and they went over things, and this is what you do, you know.
Yep.
So, and it's good. It's good that they got in there and stuff, and got in there and checked on him and everything. So that's awesome.